Hi guys, how are you and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video we'll be building this clock using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. In the background you can see that this clock is both analog and digital, and if you can see at the borders, so its colors are also changing. So we're going to see all these things in this video tutorial, and not just that, we're also going to see how we can deploy this project on GitHub so that we can share it with our friends, family or anyone on the internet. And guys, one more thing, if you are new on this channel, so I request you to kindly please subscribe it so that you can get the latest update from this channel, and also you can able to watch more videos like this. So next we'll be seeing the coding part, so let's get started with it.
Now we will see the files and folder structure for this project, right? So first of all, I'll come in my computer and then I'll make one folder, and here I'll name it as clock. Then I'm going to open this folder, and the very first thing which I'm going to do here is I'm going to paste my image, right? That we'll be using in this project. And then after that, I'll come here and here I'll just type CMD and I'll hit the enter button from my keyboard. So here you can see that the terminal will open up, and the next thing which I'm going to do here is I'll just write code dot, and then I'll hit the enter button from my keyboard, and here you can see that my Visual Studio Code will be opened, right? And then after that, since we know that we will be using three files, right? One is the HTML file, the next one will be the CSS, and the last one will be the JavaScript file. So here quickly I'll make one index.html file, and then after that I'll make one CSS file and named it as style.css. The last one will be making this script.js file, right? So these three files and then this image we will be requiring for making this project, right? So next we'll see how we can make the analog and digital clock with the help of HTML and CSS file, and later on we'll be working on this script.js file to give the functionality to the analog and digital clock, installing the extension that we'll be requiring in making of this project, right? So you'll come here, and here you can see that it is showing as extensions. Just click over here, and here in the search bar just search live server and make sure that this live server is from this Ritwik day, right? So install this live server. In my case it is showing as uninstall because I have already installed this live server. In your case, if it is showing as install, so make sure to install this live server. Next thing is we're going to use one more extension, and that one is this auto rename tag, right? This one, the auto rename tag, John Hunt, right? So install this extension as well, and one more extension we'll be seeing this prettier code formatter, right? This one, this extension, make sure to install this extension as well, right? So these three extensions we'll be requiring for making of this project. Next, now I'll be opening the index.html file, and first thing is we're going to work on this index.html file, right? So here I'll write HTML5. This will give me the structure of HTML, right? And here in the title I'll write tutorial analog and digital clock, right? And then just after the meta tags and just before the title tag, I'll use one link tag, and here I'll connect my CSS file, right? And next, just before the body tag, I'll write script, and here I'll say src, and here I'm going to connect my script.js file, that is the JavaScript file. But for this moment we'll not be working on this JavaScript file. First we'll make the clock with the help of this index.html file and this style.css file. Later on we'll work on the script.js file. So let's get started with this HTML file. So just after the body tag, I'll be making one div, and here I'll give the class as clock, right? And then within this div I'll make one other div, and here I'll give this div an ID and name it as time container, right? Make sure you write all your spellings correctly so to avoid any mistakes in your code. Then after that I'll make one more div, and here in this div I'll give one class, and the first class name I'll give it as dial, the next one I'll be giving as dial 12, and here I'll say this is 12, right? Now I'm going to copy and paste this. So let me paste one time, then two time, and then this last one. So here I'll say this will be, let's say 3, this one is going to be 6, and this one is going to be 9, right? So this one also I'll rename it to 3, this one to 6, and this one to 9, right? And then after that I'll make one more div, right? So I write div class, I will give name as our hand, right? Our hand, and ID also I'll just mention over here as our hand. Now I'm going to copy and paste this 2 more times. So come here, and just after this I'll paste it 2 more times, right? And here I'll write minute, here also I'll write minute, and this one is going to be the second, right? So I'll write second, and this one also I'll rename it to second hour, right? And then after that, let's make one more div. So I'll make div, and this div I'll give a class, and here this will I'll say the center circle, right? And then within this div only we'll make one more div. So I'll say div, then class also I'll need to provide over here, and here I'll write center, this center circle, and this will be the white one, right? Now just after this closing of this div, right, I'll make one more div, and here I'll making this div for the brand, right? So here the class I'll be saying that this class is for brand, and here I'll just write the course by set, right? Now we are done with the HTML part. Next thing is we're going to see the CSS file, right? But before that, let me open this in the browser. So I'll come here and I'll just click over here on open with live server, right? And this will here you will see that it is starting, right? Yes, you can see that right now these things were showing over here, right? This tutorial analog and digital clock, you can see that the title it is showing over here as this, and these things which we have displayed in this page, right? 12 3 6 9. So we need CSS file so that it can took the shape of clock, right? So we'll open our Visual Studio Code once again, and the style. So now we'll be working on style.css file, and here we'll start by styling the body, right? We'll say body, and then here we'll give display flex, right? And then after that we'll say that the justify content, this will going to be center. Then we'll say applying items, this will also be center, and we'll also give height of 100 VH, that is the vertical height. We'll give the margin also, or let's say it will be 0 right now. And background image, we'll be saying here the URL, and in the URL, because you know that this wall.png is in the same folder as here it is showing as the clock. So in style.css, just within the brackets, we'll just write /, and we're going to select this image wall.png, right? Also, we're going to mention the background size, and here we'll say that this will going to be cover, right? Next, after this body, we're going to style this div, right? This clock, right? And here we have given the class, right? So what we're going to do here is we'll just write .clock, and then we're going to style it. We'll say that the width will be 200 pixel. Also, we'll say that the height is also 200 pixel. We'll say that the border will be 10 pixel, solid red, and border radius will be 50%. We'll say that the position will be relative, and the background color, this will going to be white. After this, we'll say that the margin top will be minus 360 pixel, and this the margin left, this will going to be 10 pixel, right? And we'll also provide the animation. But for animation, we'll be using the keyframes. So just above this .clock, we'll say @keyframes, right? And here I'll give the name as color change, right? And here at 0%, let's say the border color will be, let's say, red. Similarly, I'm going to copy and paste this 4 more times, right? 1 2 3 and this 4, right? And here at 25%, this will going to be 50%, this one is 75%, and this one is 100%, right? The color is red at 0%. At 25%, I'll be saying that this will turn out to be blue, this one is green, and this one is orange, and at 100%, the color will change to purple, right? Fine. Now in the animations, I'll be saying that this color change, and this will going to be for 5 seconds, and this will be infinite times, right? Okay, fine. Next, we'll be styling this time container, right? So here, if you'll see that this is the ID, right? So here, first of all, we're going to copy this time container, and here in the style.css, we'll be writing hash, and then we're going to paste this time container, right? Now we're going to style this time container, right? So we'll be saying that the font size will be 18 pixel, and this font weight, this will going to be bold, right? Then we'll say that the text align, right? Just a moment. Text align, this will going to be in center, and this border will be 2 pixel, and this one is going to be solid. Then we'll use the color code, so this will be triple hashtag. So this will be hash 333, and we'll say that the width will be 40%, right? Margin left will be saying 60 pixel, and margin top, this will going to be 50 pixel, right? Also, we'll say that the border radius is 10%, and the color will be white. The background color, this will be red, right? Okay, fine. Next thing is we're going to style these dials, right? These dial. So we'll just say dot dial, and this width will be 20 pixel. The height will be 20 pixel. The background color is black. Color will be this yellow. Border radius is this 10%. Text line, this will going to be center. Line height will be 20 pixel, and font size, this will going to be 12 pixel, right? And position is absolute. Fine. Next, we're going to style these dials, right? Dial 12, dial 3, dial 6, and dial 9. Basically, we have styled this dial, right? Because all the properties in this class will going to be same. That's why we have used the first name here as the dial in this class, right? Now, whatever things which are different, we're going to style in this dial. Dial 12, dial 3, dial 6, and then this dial 9, right? So here, just after this dial, we'll say dot til dial, and we'll say dash 12, and here we'll say that this left is equal to 50%, okay, and the top will be 10 pixel. Also, we'll be using here the transform, and we'll say that this will going to be translateX and minus 50%. We'll say that the font size will be 14 pixel, and font weight will be bold. Now simply I'm going to copy and paste this thing. This dial will be 3, this dial will be 6, this dial will be 9, right? Okay. Now next we're going to see in dial 3. So here we'll say this will be right, and this will be 10 pixel, right? 10 pixel. Also this will be top, and here this top will be 50%, and this will going to be translateY, right? Fine. Now we'll see for dial 6. So this one is left, and this will be 50%, remains the same. And here instead of this top, we'll say that this will now be bottom, right? And this will be 10 pixel. This will be translateX minus 50%. Okay. For 9, this left will be 10 pixel, right? Okay. And then after that, this top is equal to 50%, and here this translateX will now be translateY minus 50%. Fine. Good. Next thing is we're going to style this hour hand, minute hand, and this second hand, right? So whatever common properties are there, so first of all we'll write like this: hour hand, comma, dot minute hand, then the comma, and then dot second dash hand, right? And for all these, the position will be absolute. Transform origin, this will going to be bottom, center, right? Then this left is 50%. Also we'll see that the bottom is also 50%, and we'll say that this transform is translate and minus 50%, comma, minus 50%. Transition, this will going to be transform 0.5 second, and this will be cubic desire, and here I'll say 0.4, comma, 2.3. This will be 0.7, and this will be 1, right? Now after this we're going to individually style these hour hands, right? So whatever common properties are there, we have written like this. Next we'll see the further styling of the hour hand, right? Say hour hand, and here we'll say that the width will be 4 pixel. Also we say that the height is 50 pixel, and background color will be purple, right? And then after that, what I'm doing here is I'm going to copy and paste it 2 more times, right? And here I'll say that instead of hour hand, this will be the minute hand, and this one is going to be the second hand, right? Here width I'll be giving as 3 pixel, height I'll be giving as 70 pixel, and the color I'll be giving it as black color, right? Next, in the second hand, I'll be saying that the width is 2 pixel, the height is 80 pixel, and the color will be red, right? Now we'll be styling this center circle, right? And next we'll be styling this center circle white. So since what I'm doing here is I'm going to copy and paste this, right? And here I'll say that this width will be, let's say, 10 pixel. The height also we'll see that this will going to be 10 pixel. We'll say that the background color hash 333, and border radius is 50%. Position is going to be absolute. Top is 50%. This left is 50%. Transform and this translate minus 50%, comma minus 50%, right? After this, we're going to style this center circle white, right? So we're going to copy and I'll just say dot and paste it here. Next, within this center circle white, we'll say that the width will be 5 pixel. We'll also see that the height here is 5 pixel, and the background color, let's say it as white. Border radius, this will going to be 50%. Position is going to be absolute. Also we'll say that the top is 50%. Then we'll say that left is 50%, and then this transform and this translate minus 50%, comma minus 50%, right? Now just the last one thing is left, and this one is the brand, right? So I'm going to copy and paste it here also, but before that I'll use dot since it's a class. Now here I'll say that the margin top is 70 pixel. This margin left will be 52 pixel. Color will be blue, and font weight is bolder, right? Fine. Now after saving our file, I'll come back to my browser, right? And it looks like this, right? Let me check my code once again, and here let me see why these clocks are not coming, this hour, minute and second hand are not coming in this center, right? So for that I'll come here and check my code once again, right? So here we have given the position as absolute, transform origin is this bottom center, fine, this 50%, bottom is 50%, translate this minus 50%, this we'll say that this one is going to be positive, and then we're going to save our file. Let me come back, and here you can see that it is now coming properly, right? This black line just after this 12 is your digital clock, and we're going to see how this digital clock and this analog clock will going to work once we'll complete with the JavaScript part. So next we'll be starting working on JavaScript file, right? We have already created our analog and digital clock. Next we'll be working on the JavaScript file so that our analog and digital clock will work, right? So I'll open my Visual Studio Code and I'll come back to the script.js file, and here I'll be writing function, and this function name I'll give a name as update clock, right? And then within this, first of all, I'll make a comment as analog clock, right? So first of all, we'll see how we can work on the analog clock, right? So here I'll be writing const now, and then after that is equal to new date, right? Then this semicolon, basically it creates a new date object representing the current time, right? Next I'll say that is const hour, right? And here I'll say now dot get hours, right? Then after that I'll say const minute, and I'll say now dot get minutes. After this, I'll be writing const second, and here I'll say now dot get seconds. Right? Fine. Basically, these three lines, it extract the current hour, minute, and second components from the now object. Right? Next thing is, here I'll be saying that const hour hand. Right? I'll say this as document.getElementById, and here I'll say this as hour hand. Right? Let me open my index.html file to show you that here we have used this ID, hour hand, minute hand, and this second hand. Right? These IDs. Right? Now I'll open my script.js file, and then here I'm going to copy and paste this two more times. One for minute and the second one is for the second hand. Right? So here I'll say minute, and this one is also going to be minute. This one is the second. Right? And this one will also going to be second. Right? Now basically all these lines, right, fetch reference to the HTML elements that represent the hour, minute, and second hands of the analog clock. Right? I'm talking about all these three lines. Right? Next thing is, I'll be writing this const hour degree. Right? And here I'll say hour and this percentage symbol, then this 12. I'll give some space in between, then into 30. This formula I'm using over here, say minute, and then this I'll divide by 2. Right? It calculates the rotation degree for the hour hand. Right? Next, I'll say const minute, and here I'll say DEG degree, minute degree, and here I'll say minute into 6 plus second divided by 10. Right? This calculates the rotation degree for the minute hand. Right? Next one is const second DEG degree, and here I'll say this a second into 6. Right? So this calculates the rotation degree for the second hand. Right? Now after this, I'll be saying hour hand dot style dot transform, and here I'll say rotate, and within brackets I'll say dollar, and then here I'll say this as hour degree, and this will be degree. Right? Okay, fine. Now I'm going to copy and paste this two more times, one for minute and the last one is for the second. Right? Here I'll say this will be minute. Right? Here I'll say this will be minute. Right? Next one, this will be second. Right? And this will be second. Right? Fine. Okay. Now basically these three lines, right, these three lines set the transform property of the clock hand elements to rotate them by the calculated degrees. Right? So now let me save my file and let me open the browser and let me refresh this page. Yeah, okay. So now for analog clock, we have written the JavaScript part. Right? Now if I'll say that update clock, right, and I'll call this function, and if I'll open my browser, so here you can see that it is working fine. Right? But here I'll just need to write the set interval. Right? So I'll say set interval, and here I'll say update clock, and here I'll say as 1000. Right? Now basically set interval, let us understand this line, set interval update clock, this 1000. Right? So basically this line sets up a timer using set interval to call the update clock function every 1000 milliseconds, right, or 1 second, ensuring that both the analog clock and the digital clock are updated in real time, right? And if I'll talk about this update clock, then this line is called immediately after the set interval to initialize the clock with the current time when the page loads, right? So now if I'll open my browser, so here you can see that this analog clock is working perfectly fine. So at this moment, if you have watched this video, so I request you to kindly please subscribe my channel if you are new on this channel. And guys, if you have liked this video, so don't forget to hit the like button on this video, right? Next we'll be building the digital clock, right? So just after this, I'll be saying that first of all I'll make one comment over here, and here I'll write digital clock, right? And then after that I'll say let hours, and this now I'll say now dot get hours, right? Now I'll say that this let minutes, and this will now be now dot get minutes, right? Okay, and basically these hours and minutes, these variables store the current hour and minutes components, right? Next thing is like const am pm, right? For analog clock I'll also have to mention am and pm, so I'll say hours, and if hours are greater than or equal to 12, then you will display pm, right? Otherwise display this am, right? Fine. So this line basically it determines whether it's am or pm based on whether the hour is greater than or equal to 12, right? Now next thing we'll be writing const time container, right? Fine. And here I'll say document dot get element by id, and within the brackets I'll say this as time dash container, right? I'll save this and I'll come back to my index.html file. So this is the id which we are talking about, this time container, right? I'll copy paste this here also just to avoid any spelling mistakes, right? Okay, so basically it fetches the HTML element that will display the digital clock time, right? I'm talking about this line, right? Now next thing is I'll say hours is equal to hours, then this percentage symbol and 12, right? Basically it converts hour to a 12-hour format by taking the remainder when divided by 12, right? So next we'll be saying hours, and here I'll say hours is equal to hours, right? And I'll put a question mark over here and I'll say hours semicolon and then this 12, right? Okay, this is handle midnight, right? So for this line, let's say if hours become 0 after the previous step, it is set to 12 to represent midnight in the 12-hour format, right? Next thing is we'll write minutes, and minutes is equal to minutes, right? And I'll say this will be less than 10, and then this question mark, then this 0 over here, and I'll say plus minutes, right? And then this minutes, right? Yeah, fine. So basically this adds a leading 0 to minutes if they are less than 10, right? Next we'll say const current time, right? And this will equal to, let's say that this hours, right? How we're going to display this, so we'll say hours, then minutes, right? And then I'll say that this am and pm, right? Hour and minutes will be displaying over here, right? So basically it creates a formatted string representing the current time in the format hour, minute and am or pm, right? Next thing is I'll be saying time container dot text content, and this will be the current time, right? Basically this line it sets the text content of the time container element to display the current time, right? So this is all. We are completed with the digital clock coding as well. And let me open my browser to show you that digital and analog clock both are working perfectly fine, right? So I hope guys that you have liked this video, and in case if you have any doubt, so you can ask the same in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer all your questions, right? Now next, to host this website, I'll first of all open my Chrome browser, and then in the Google search bar, I'll just type GitHub, right? And then I'm going to log into my GitHub account, right? I've already logged in, so that's why I have redirected to this page, right? Here, I'll be saying that I'll be selecting on this your profile section. And then here, I'll click on this plus icon and I'll make a new repository. I'll give a name as this analog and digital clock, right? Your new repository name will be created as analog digital clock. Yes. Okay. Okay, I'll remove these spaces over here. And then in the description, I'll say clock, and I'll say that this is created with the help of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? Okay, we'll keep it as public only, and I will also add a README file here. And then after that, I'll click on this create repository button, right? So here you can see that our repository is created. Now we're going to add the files, right? So I'll click on this add file button and I'm going to click on upload files, right? Here it is asking to drag your files here to add them to your repository or choose your file. So the easiest way we'll be doing here is we'll simply going to drag and drop our files. So I'll open my folder and here I'm going to select all the files and this image as well, right? And I'm going to drag and drop here, right? So you can see that each and every file is uploading one by one, right? And now all the 4 files are uploaded successfully, right? One is the HTML, the second one is the JavaScript, third one is the CSS, and fourth one is the PNG, which is our image, right? Now in the comment changes, I'll be writing one message. I'll say that uploaded, right? And here I'll click on this comment changes now, right? So it is processing your files, right? Next thing is we're going to click on this setting icon, right? And then under the code and automation, right? You can see that this pages. You're going to click over here. And from here in this branch, right, I'm talking about this branch, here you're going to click on this none and you're going to select your branch. So here we can see that we have only one branch and that one is the main branch. So we're going to click on it and then we're going to simply save this. That's all, right? Now after a few minutes, your website will be posted on GitHub, right? So I'll come back to this your profile section. Now here, I'll click here and I'll click on this your repository, right? And I'm going to click on this analog and digital clock. Right, now let me come here and here you can see that deployments. If you hover over here, so it is saying that the deployment is successful. If you click on here, so you can see that you will get your link, right? You're going to click on this link and here you can see that your project is deployed on GitHub successfully, right? You can see the URL is course by set github.io analog digital clock, right? You can see that the analog clock is also working and the digital clock is also working, right? So we have successfully created this project.
So in this video you have seen how you can build this analog and digital clock using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Also you have seen how to deploy it on GitHub so that you can share it with your friends, family or anyone on the internet. So I hope guys that you have liked this video, and if you're new on this channel, so I request you to kindly please subscribe it so that you can get the latest update from this channel, and also you can able to watch more videos like this. So thank you, that's all for this video, and I'll hope to meet you soon in the next video. Thanks for now.